Hello, everybody. I'm Bruce Leslie, president of First Focus on Children. During Children's Week, First Focus on Children has been working with policy experts and community advocates to raise awareness to the fact that every policy issue is a children's issue. Unfortunately, kids are often an afterthought in public policy discussions, and their best interests are often ignored. This must change if we wish to improve child well-being in this country and ensure our kids can compete in a world economy. Today, we'll be covering a subject that people don't normally associate with kids. We'll be talking about tax policy and its impact on children and families. I am so very pleased to welcome our guest today, Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado. Senator Bennet has long understood that a fair and equitable tax code is very much a children's issue. He's long been an incredible champion and defender of our nation's children. Senator Bennet, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Senator, before we dive into the details of tax policy, I want to speak more generally about children with you. Too often in politics, children are left out of the conversation when it comes to public policy. Children are often treated as an afterthought. But you have long supported children through championing legislation like the American Family Act, the Children's Health Insurance Program, and other initiatives. Could you share a moment or experience that motivated you to make a career change from law and finance to becoming superintendent of Denver Public Schools and then a leading advocate for children in Congress and the lead sponsor of the American Family Act?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the question, Bruce. I really appreciate it. I believe that sort of a threshold question for each generation of Americans is, are we leaving more opportunity or less to the people coming after us? And most of the time, we've been able to answer that question by saying, yes, more opportunity. We've gotten to a point over the last 50 years or so with an economy that's worked well for the top 10%, but not for anybody else, where that really is open to question. That's why I left my job in finance to go work for the kids in the Denver Public Schools. And it was the experience that I had there with families who are often working 2 and 3 jobs. No matter what they do, they couldn't get their kids out of poverty. And it was that experience that led me when I became a senator to introduce the American Family Act, first the child tax credit expansion in 2015, and then the American Family Act in 2017 with Sherrod Brown and Rosa DeLauro. And I was absolutely thrilled that we had a 1-year expansion of the child tax credit along the lines of our proposal, which means we're going to cut childhood poverty almost in half this year as a result of Joe Biden's American Rescue Plan. And I have said over and over on the floor of the Senate in all kinds of contexts that the problem that we face as a country and as a Congress is that too often we're treating America's children like they're someone else's children, not like they're our children. I think with the passage of this bill this year, finally I can say that we're treating America's children like they're America's children.
No, we 100% agree. We believe that this, your legislation and its incorporation in the American Families Plan is potentially the most significant piece of legislation that we've ever witnessed, and consequently, we think that will make an enormous difference in the lives of kids and families. So, as the graphic shows, American Rescue Plan and proposed American Families Plan incorporated all of the improvements to the child tax credit that you had been pushing for the past few years in your American Family Act. In a poll we conducted on election eve 2020, the American people supported your legislation by an overwhelming 71 to 18% margin. So, the American people are with you in this change for kids. It would dramatically cut child poverty, as you noted, but also improve the lives of nearly 70 million children across the country. Can you tell us a bit about the key child tax credit improvements in your legislation that were also incorporated in this American Families Plan and what they mean for kids?
Yeah, I really appreciate the chance to do that. Bruce ran a virtually unnoticed campaign for president on this, on the idea that if we just made these three changes to the child tax credit, that we could cut childhood poverty almost in half. And those three changes have been included by the Biden administration. The first is to take the child tax credit up from $2,000 to $3,000 for kids under the age of 6. It actually goes up to $3,600. It makes the credit fully refundable, so for the first time in American history, the poorest kids will have the benefit of the credit. They did not have the benefit of the credit before. And then, very importantly, it pays it out on a monthly basis, so that families can help when they're trying to figure out how to pay their rent or buy groceries, or maybe pay for a few extra hours of childcare so their mom or dad could work. That's done in real time rather than once a year as it historically has worked. So nationwide, as you said, over 65 million kids, that's more than 90% of the kids in the country, will benefit. This will lift 10 million children above or close to the poverty line. It reduces Black childhood poverty by 52%, Native American poverty by 61%. So, and I think we have seen already that studies from places like Columbia University have said that they think that we're going to get 8 times annual return on this investment that we're making, because childhood poverty costs our country $1 trillion a year. So this is the right thing to do for kids, but it's also absolutely the right thing to do for our country.
No, we as I said earlier, we wholeheartedly agree. And another question along these lines is, you and your colleagues have been really pushing to make this permanent. So we know that in the American Rescue Plan, it was temporary. And then even in the American Families Plan proposed by the president, some of the aspects of the proposal were made permanent and others would expire. Could you talk to us a little bit about that, and really more importantly is for the audience, is what can they do to help you in all your work to make this happen and to make it permanent?
So I think this is going to be a historic piece of legislation, and I believe the most historic part of it would be saying as a country that we're not going to accept some of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the industrialized world as a permanent feature of our economy or our society. And people, please call your representatives and your senators and say, we need to make this permanent. Before the American Rescue Plan Act, nearly a third of our kids, including nearly half of all Black and Latino children, were living in households whose incomes were too low to receive the full value of the tax credit. And that's why we made it fully refundable. It's why, another reason why we increased it the way that we increased it. And the expansion of the child tax credit is one of the single biggest investments we've made in families in generations. It's the largest reduction in poverty I'm aware of in the history of the country. And for decades, we've cut taxes for corporations and the wealthy few on the theory that the benefits would trickle down to the rest of the country. That has not happened, and I think if we seize this opportunity, it will mark a new chapter of American history that finally puts people and children first. So I'm so grateful for all First Focus and its advocacy partners are doing to make the extension permanent. We know that President Biden's ultimate goal is to make the expanded CTC permanent. The Speaker of the House is committed to doing it. Rosa DeLauro and Chairman Neal are committed to doing it in the House. We're going to need a little bit of help in the Senate to try to get this done. And I look forward to working with your organization, the administration, and my colleagues to do the right thing for America's children and America's families.
Thank you, Senator Bennet. And I will note that we've been working on a sign-on letter to support your efforts, and we have hundreds of national, state, and local organizations across the country who have signed on to that. And I would put it out there again. We urge others to join us in this effort. And one other thing is as of today, in fact, there's 273 organizations that have signed the letter. The IRS just announced that families will receive their monthly payments of up to $250 or $300 per child, starting on July 15th, just a month away. What do families with children need to do to make sure they'll receive the benefits they're eligible for?
Thank you for that question. So as you said, the IRS is going to be making monthly payments to eligible families on July 15th and each month thereafter through December. Obviously, we want to continue that permanently, as we were just talking about. The vast majority of families, 88% of families with children, won't be required to take any further action to receive advanced monthly CTC payments. These families, almost 90%, are going to receive payments automatically, generally in the same way that they receive their tax refund, either as a direct deposit or as a paper check in the mail. But we do need to spread the word to the small share of families who don't file taxes, especially since these families include some of our nation's most vulnerable children. So just this week, the IRS is launching its simplified filing tool to help non-filer families sign up for their advanced monthly CTC payments. Over the coming weeks, we need to get the word out that the IRS has done that. Later this month, the IRS will launch its CTC update portal, where families will be able to update information about changes in their lives. That includes their income, their filing status, bank account information, address, and number of children. They'll also be able to opt out of monthly payments if they want to receive the CTC as one lump sum at tax time. So the bottom line is, in the coming weeks, we're going to want all hands on deck to ensure all families understand the benefits they're eligible for. These payments are going to make a huge difference to millions of American families, and it's going to be an amazing moment, I think, when people actually see themselves and their families benefiting dramatically from something that we've been able to pass here in Washington, D.C. It gives me a lot of hope that we're on the cusp of an era where we figure out once again how to have an economy in this country that works for everybody, and not just the people at the very top. And that's going to be a huge benefit to the kids I used to work for in the Denver public schools, and kids just like them all over the country.
Senator, thank you so much for being such a great leader for our kids in the Senate. And thank you so much for joining us today to discuss the importance of the child tax credit and all your work to make improvements to it a reality for kids. And again, as you noted, this would improve the lives of millions, more than 65 million kids across this country. And the need to make these changes that you're proposing permanent, and how tax policy is actually a children's issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you for your advocacy. And let's go make this permanent.
Absolutely.
All right.
And also a huge thank you to all of you who are watching online today. Please keep the conversation going in the comments or on the social media using the hashtags Children's Week 2021 and It's a Kids Issue. If you visit www.firstfocus.org/Children's Week, you'll find more resources and action steps, as well as an archive of all of our Children's Week conversations. And for those of you who are ready to take action now, please sign up for the newly launched First Focus Ambassadors for Children Network. You can learn more at campaignforchildren.org/AFC. Bye for now. And again, thanks to Senator Bennet for all he's doing for our kids.